Well, we have some, let's be honest, not great stuff that we have to talk about. Listen, I like to make videos on this largely because I think that a lot of misinformation happens, and so I like to hopefully steer stuff in the right direction, let everyone know what exactly we know and what we still don't know involving the Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter, who was seemingly going to be the first overall pick, or at least a lot of people were mocking him to be a first overall pick. A lot of debate as to what would actually happen, but someone who was getting talked about as maybe the best non-quarterback in the draft. He has, been, well, let me just read the report that this is from at my sports update. Ari Marinov, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He is, a very reliable source, someone I definitely trust on this stuff. I'm just going to read the report as written. As a result of the ongoing investigation into the January 15th, 2023 fatal crash that occurred, blah, 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 the police department has secured arrest warrants for Jalen Carter, 21, for reckless driving and racing. The investigation found that Chandler LaCroix, the driver of the Florida Exposition, and Jalen Carter, driver of a Jeep Tomahawk, were operating the vehicles in a manner consistent with racing shortly after leaving downtown Athens area at about 2:30 a.m. The evidence demonstrated that both vehicles switched between lanes, drove in the center turn lane, and drove in opposite lanes of travel, overtook other motorists, and drove at high rates of speed in an apparent attempt to outdistance each other. Evidence indicated that shortly after the crash, the Expedition was traveling about 104 miles per hour. The toxology report indicated that LaCroix's blood alcohol concentration was 0.197 at the time of the crash. Investigators determined that alcohol impairment, racing, reckless driving, and speed were significant contributing factors to the crash. The case will be given to the Solicitor General's office. So what do we make of all of this? Well, first, again, let's remember the first thing. An arrest warrant has been issued for reckless driving and racing. That's what we know. That's all we know currently right now is those two things. It could get more than that. It could be less than that. We still do not know if it because that's kind of what we're talking about, right? What does this mean from Jalen Carter's perspective? And if it's just those two charges, while still not ideal from his perspective, it's not going to end his life. Now, I was trying to look up if manslaughter could be considered here, and I think I would need maybe a lawyer who's watching this or someone who understands law to help me out and know if this is the case or not. I was just looking at it, and from my understanding, this is from the Georgia law, it says that there is something called first-degree vehicular homicide / manslaughter, which is, when a driver causes the death of another individual while violating one of Georgia's reckless driving laws. But the question here is, did he cause the death, or was he just next to the death and reckless driving while the death happened? I think they would definitely argue that he did not cause the death, although we have not seen the footage, so it would really come down to that probably. So there is still a possibility of that, but as of right now, all we can assume is what the police have told us so far, that just the reckless driving and racing would be the charges, which is, again, from an ethics standpoint, it doesn't really change much. Obviously, it's terrible that this happened, but at least from his perspective, he might not be spending a bunch of years in jail. He might only be, potentially be spending no time at all in jail. But again, that's just my understanding of it as a non-lawyer. So if someone has a background in this, definitely, in the comments below, make sure that you help us out there. But as a whole, I mean, again, you do have to talk about the football side of things a little bit, right? This was a guy who was maybe going to be a first-round pick. Does this hurt his draft stock? It doesn't help. I mean, you have to assume this does, but at the end of the day, there still is, the famous expression of if Hannibal Lecter ran a 4.3, they'd say it's an eating disorder, and this kind of stuff does happen, and people tend to get away with, it in the NFL. The NFL tends to not punish this stuff too severely, and I think the only reason people would be concerned about it would just be from we don't want to, have to risk getting someone like that where, maybe they'll do something stupid and we'll lose our investment. It kind of feels like that's the main way the NFL will take it. So, yeah, feel for the families involved, all of that stuff. That's the information we know. So again, I'm sure people will, speculate on it further and talk about other stuff. And, again, there's always misinformation with this stuff. That's just what we know as of right now. There's plenty of things we don't know. But yeah, okay. Those are my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.